All right, everyone. How you guys doing today? Needs more drums. Back in Drumbridge Farms for episode 4 of our series where we are trying to buy back what used to be our family farm. So we've made some exciting progress since the last episode. As you can see, first and foremost, the bank account is looking pretty good. We did a couple of extra contracts, but nothing too crazy. Once we got into October, we took a little bit of time to kind of just relax and, prepare for winter and think about some things for the next year. But we did purchase one of our old fields here, and so we actually, I know I was talking about getting some of those fields from Mason that we mowed in the last episode, I believe. Those couple of small grass fields that were kind of by those houses. Actually learned a little bit more about those, and it turns out that those really weren't for sale. We actually never really had those as part of the farm. They were actually just, privately owned, and Mason was just doing some mowing contracts for those people. So it was kind of like, we wouldn't be in a position to purchase those anyway. So those are just gonna stay with their respective owners, which is fine because those are kind of a hassle to get in and out of anyway, and they can probably just mow it with a small lawnmower, honestly, rather than a tractor. But if we look over here to our left, this field is a field 2 when we look at our total farm fields in the area. And this is our new field. So what we've done is we've actually gone ahead and planted grass in it already. So that I did that a little bit off camera. And the reason that we've done that is because you can see where this gate is. I actually had to put this up. I had to cut this hedge down. I had to put in these gate posts here and get this gate all set up. And then I had to actually take out a couple of fence pieces as well, because the entrance to this field was all the way on the other side. So you couldn't really get in unless you drove like all the way around that back wall and then drove through some other fields to get in there. And the reason that I don't want to put crops in this is because there's actually no way to get a harvester in here without driving through the crop. So if we want to use this whole area, so it makes sense to just keep this as grass. That way we can come in here, drive on it, and then mow it. And we're going to keep that as grass, definitely for the foreseeable future. Speaking of grass, the name of the game today is going to be grass work. So it is November. As you can see, the grass is kind of already starting to see the end of its life for the year. So we're gonna go through our grass fields and get one last cut in, because we could use the silage. I know it's November, it's a little bit more damp. It's not the perfect weather for any kind of hay, but thankfully we're not doing any hay work. We're just gonna do some silage work. And you can see here as we pull into the farm that our big field is going to be pretty full of grass as well. It's not quite as long as the other two fields that we've seen, but it should still give us quite a nice yield. From this, I forget how many acres this is, like 17 acres or something. Yeah, about 20 acres, just over 19. So can't complain there. But yeah, again, speaking of yield, we also took the time over the beginning of the fall to pay somebody to come out and collect some soil samples from our fields. So now we have some detailed data about, the soil types of the fields and kind of, what we can do in terms of fertilizer and such to make our yields a little bit better and less harmful to the environment. So if we just jump over our to see some of that data here. You can see we have our different soil types up on the screen here. We have some sandy loam here, some loam, and a lot of silty clay in some of these fields. It seems like this is kind of a silty clay pocket here. So as you can see, we're doing okay. But, there are some metrics that we can improve on, so particularly nitrogen. This will improve, especially once we get crops in the ground, but we can also improve this with some fertilizer. So, once we get the crop in the ground, we can reevaluate whether or not we need to apply some fertilizer or not. But in terms of our pH, this has to do with our lime levels, I believe. We can actually see that we're doing fairly okay for now. So we'll probably have to revisit this, in another harvest or something. Once some of the nutrients are removed from the soil, we'll have to get in there and add some lime. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our tractor, which is over here in the shed, and we'll go and hook up to the mower. And also, one thing real quick before I do that, the pole for our new tractor that we want to purchase, you know, preferably over the winter. That poll is closed as of now, so I'm going to go ahead and look at those results, and then I will make a decision about what tractor we're going to purchase during the winter, and then the next episode will probably be in the springtime, and we'll have, you know, made that purchase, and we'll see what you all have decided, and if I can find something that's, you know, a good deal. So let's go ahead and just jump into our one tractor that we have for now, our good old John Deere. And we'll go ahead and drive to the other side of the farm and pick up our mower and just start getting to work here on cutting some of these fields. All right, and as we're hooked up to this mower here, this actually got me thinking about something else. I've been thinking about looking on the market for a different kind of mower, because this one is a little bit difficult, as we've seen, you know, when we were mowing those really small fields around those houses that I mentioned earlier. It's been a little bit obvious that our mowers actually got to go the other way. My bad. But it's been a little bit obvious that this mower is a little bit awkward to maneuver through some of these fields, you know, with the narrow roads, and if there's like a wall on one side and you got to work your way through a gate, any kind of gate, you know, it's a little bit tough to get this through because it's quite long. So I think what I want to look at are some mowers. I think there's some by Claas and Pottinger, however it's pronounced. I've seen some of those that actually fold into like an upright L position, as opposed to sticking out, you know, like real far back like this. So if I can get my hands on one of those, maybe we can look at some of those and do a little bit of a trade-in. So I'm gonna look at what we have available, you know, on the market throughout the winter while we're looking at tractors, and see if I can, you know, swap this one for something at a similar price point, so we're not, you know, spending too much money. And we'll see, you know, kind of what we can do. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and just get started on cutting some of this grass. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump into a little bit of some time lapses, and we'll talk to you guys once we've made some progress on all of our fields. Alright guys, and here we are coming up on our last couple of passes in this huge grass field. This actually took us quite a bit of time. 19 acres is quite a bit of grass when you got a mower like this. That's, you know, not the biggest. So as you can see, it's already getting dark. It is November, you know, it's just past 5 o'clock, but it is already dark outside. So I think what we're going to do is just kind of wrap things up for the evening, and then we'll come back in the morning and, you know, do our windrowing and baling. So I will see you guys very soon. Alright everyone, and good morning. We just hooked up our windrower. Actually, we did this last night before we went to bed, and then drove back up here to the yard. But we're just going to go and head over to our new field across the street here, get started with that one, and then the other small one over there to our left by our other part of the farmyard. We'll do those first, and then we'll again knock out the biggest field a little bit later in the day. But yeah, it did rain a little bit, so we got a little bit of a later start to the morning. Plus it's been, you know, it is November, so it gets, as we saw, it gets dark pretty early, and it also stays dark pretty late in the morning. So the sun's starting to kind of retreat throughout the day a little bit more, but no worries. Luckily, we're just doing our last bit of grass work for the year, and then we'll pretty much be, you know, wrapped up for all of our responsibilities for the season. Yeah, let's just go ahead. We'll windrow these couple of fields, jump into a little bit of another small time lapse, since we're just doing the same job on all of our fields over and over again. And then I'll let you guys know once we can get started with some baling. So thankfully, since we are doing silage, we don't have to actually, you know, worry about trying to do any tedding. So cuts a step out of the workflow for us, which is nice. And we'll even, before we wrap the episode, maybe we'll even go check on our silage bales that we have sitting on the other side and see if we can sell any of those. So let's get this wrapped up, and then I will talk to you guys in a bit. All right, everyone, we're just getting back to the shop here. As you'll see, it's morning. Yeah, we were up all night till about 10:30, windrowing this field in front of us here. I'll go ahead and turn my flashlight on it. You could see, but man, this took us such a long time with this little tiny windrower that we have on the back. So, you know, again, like I've been saying, it's got me thinking a little bit about some of the equipment that we currently have on the farm. And I mean, if we're going to keep doing grass work, if that's going to be one of our main sources of income, you know, if we're going to keep doing silage, then I think it makes sense to upgrade, you know, this, even just a double, like a double wide windrower would be a huge improvement to what we've been working with. And same thing with the mower. If we had, you know, I know I said I would think about getting one of those mowers that folded, you know, upwards instead of like backwards, but I think now that I really think about it, it might be more beneficial to start saving for like a 3-piece mower, you know, with the one on the front and the 2 wider ones on the back. That could cut down our time. No pun intended again. I'm just filled with the grass and baling puns these episodes, I'll tell you. But anyway, it'd be great to invest in some, you know, bigger equipment like that if we're going to keep pushing on using grass work a lot. So anyway, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get this, you know, disconnected and stuff. But before we do that, I'm actually going to go and get this gassed up and washed. It's a pretty nice morning. I know it's dark, but it's currently 62 degrees. We have a high today of 75. Yesterday we had a little bit of rain throughout the day, but not really enough to warrant. Let's get the gas flowing here, or the diesel, I guess. But yeah, not enough to warrant any kind of significant delay, but it was drizzling for a little bit. Since we were only windrowing and not baling, I didn't think it was worth, you know, stopping. It wasn't going to impact our yield. At the very least, we had a little bit of grass building up on the back of the windrower, but nothing we couldn't, you know, clean up and you know, fix as the day went on. So no worries there. But yeah, we got that all wrapped up, and I am really, really happy about that. Quite a lot of grass, and actually, I was surprised this one didn't grow, as we saw in the beginning of the episode. This one didn't grow to the fullest potential, given just the timing that we planted it. We planted it a little bit late in the season, but the grass on the small field across the street by our second yard, that got pretty long, and it showed. I mean, the windrows over there are pretty thick, so I think we're going to have a good crop off of that field. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get this cleaned up real quick. Like I always say, you know, clean equipment is healthy equipment, and this is no exception, especially since we were working just a little bit through the rain. I want to make sure that, you know, grass doesn't build up on these little tines here, and you know, we have any issues with that. And there we go. This tractor looking absolutely fantastic. Good as new. All right, so we're going to go ahead, take this down to the other yard, and we will get this windrower swapped for the baler. Make sure that's all loaded up. It should be loaded up from the last time we did some baling. I think there's still plenty of twine in there. But yeah, today's gonna be a long day. I want to get everything baled and wrapped by the end of the day. I don't think we're gonna be able to do it with one tractor. I'll be honest. It's gonna be very ambitious, especially just getting everything. But I know we'll get all the baling done, but the wrapping I'm a little bit nervous about, because there's going to be a ton of bales on this field to our left. We got 20 acres worth of grass cut and windrowed, so that's going to be a hefty amount of bales, since we're just using kind of the smaller ones. They're just easier to move around, and we don't need those huge bales right now. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and swap our equipment and just jump into another little time lapse as we get this job started. So enjoy, and I will talk to you guys once we finish up for the day. Yeah, actually, just as we're getting started here, I think we're going to go ahead and bale the 2 small fields first. That's kind of been our plan of attack for the past, the rest of the jobs. And this one, yeah, just so I can show you guys, look at the size of the windrows on this field. It is quite impressive. Yeah, we have a lot of grass. So we're gonna get these baled up real quick, and luckily baling runs at 10-11 miles an hour, so we're gonna be done relatively quickly here, especially now that we have this we had some grass in the baler to get started with anyway. So yep, we're just gonna go ahead and get this done real quick. So I'll see you guys soon. Alright, so we just loaded up some net wrap into the baler. We ran out as we made our second pass around our big field. Yeah, we're going to go ahead back there. We've been around the field twice, and we already have 25 bales. I am using the small bales just because they're easy to move around. They're easy to store. So, yeah, they're just easier to handle. I know it's probably not the most efficient way to do this when we have a 20-acre field of grass. But you know what? I don't mind it. It'll be fine. So, anyway, this is going to take us quite a while to get all of these bales baled, and then we'll see if we have time to wrap them all today. I'm going to try to at least get maybe a couple of the small fields done, but this big field might have to wait until tomorrow, and hopefully it doesn't rain or we don't get a drastic change in the weather, because it is the end of November, so we're going to be changing here pretty soon. It's going to start getting colder. But yeah, look at how big this field is. We have 25 bales already. Have been around 2 headlands. Have we even got the second one on that side yet? Maybe not. Maybe we've only been around the field once. Yeah, I bet you we get at least 75 bales off of this one field, and we got 22 off of the last one, and then we got what was it, like 21, I think, off of this other small one. So we're gonna have well over 100 bales to wrap and store and eventually sell. So that's the one thing about doing bales, as opposed to like having like a pickup, like a forage harvester with a pickup header, or a pickup wagon. It just is a lot of work. But we got the time. It's kind of therapeutic in a way. And as we scale the farm, that big equipment, like a big forage harvester, that's like a $400,000, maybe not that much, $200,000 piece of equipment, that right now we just can't afford something like that. And I think we have to put our money elsewhere. And the only reason that we're doing this grass is because I can get some silage and make a little bit of extra cash, and not to mention the fact that it acts as a cover crop in a way. So I believe if we cultivate this into the ground, next year when we plant, it'll give us a little bit of a kind of a fertilizer bonus, an additional yield bonus, because it is organic. And so cultivating any kind of organic material into the ground helps, add nutrients to the soil. So it's really a win-win. We're using something that we can harvest, so to speak. We can cut it and bale it, make some money off of it, and then save on fertilizer costs by cultivating it into the ground before we plant. So I really can't complain about that at all. And yeah, speaking of crops, as we're just kind of going around here, I think the plan for next year, I would like to hold out, I think, on planting until we want to get a winter crop in the ground. So I was looking at the crop calendar, and it looked like barley, or at least you can plant barley, it's in September. So what that would mean is if we kept this grass here, we could get 2 cuts, potentially, before, yeah, we should get a spring cut and a summer cut. So usually a summer cut is like July, August. Spring cut we'll do like, maybe like April, whenever the grass is at its most mature. But that'll be great if we can get 2 additional cuts. And as I've said, it's a lot of work, but at the same time, I did some quick math, and say we even got 75 bales off of this, or 70 bales off of this field. Silage right now is selling at about 120 bucks per 1,000 liters. Each bale is 3.5 thousand liters, so 120 times 3.5 is 420. And then times 70 was about 29,000, just over 29,000. It was like 29,400. So even if we had like 70 bales, we're looking at close to 30 grand just off of this field. And you know, you combine that with the other couple fields that we have, I think it was 10, like about 9-10 grand for the 22 bale field across the street here. And then, you know, you do kind of the same, it'll be about the same thing for the other field. It was about 21-22 bales I think we got off of that one. So we're looking at like 50,000 just in silage from these 3 fields. So again, nothing to complain about. You know, that's a real nice sum of money, especially when we need to focus on, number one, really just upgrading our equipment. Now I'm starting to kind of realize how much we're restrained by some of the size of our equipment, especially our seeder, mower, and our windrower. I think those 3 things we need to look at potentially upgrading once we get our second tractor. So the second tractor is going to be a huge help for us in just, you know, getting some of the work done. Because I mean, look at, even with this grass work, you know, we could have had my dad windrowing, and I could have been following around him or behind him with the baler already, like as he was doing that. But instead, you know, I had to windrow everything and then wait to come back and bale it until after the windrowing was done. So you can see, like, instead of, you know, 1 day's work turned into 2 days work, and now this might even turn into 3 once we got to get all this wrapped. Like, one of us could have been wrapping bales already. You know what I mean? So it is a lot, but once we get a second tractor, it's really going to help us out. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I've been, you know, still enjoying this. It is a beautiful time of year, a beautiful time of day as well. You know, the trees are changing, and this part of the world is just always so beautiful. So we're just gonna finish this up, and then we'll see what time it is if I want to start getting things wrapped. If not, I'll maybe do that off camera. But either way, I also, before we go though, I do want to check on our silage bales that are stacked up by the over there, like across the street to the right, over there again in our small field by the other yard, because those should be ready to go pretty soon, and so we can probably get those sold. And I'll probably do that off camera, and you know, I'll just fill you guys in the springtime what we made from those. But probably be about 10 grand based off of what I've calculated. So definitely a welcome sum of cash, especially now that we're looking for a tractor. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all finished up here. I'll see you guys very soon. All right, so it's only about 5 o'clock. We've been working way later the past couple days, so we still have some time to get some bales wrapped, I think, today before the, you know, it gets really late. But yeah, just so you guys know, there are 100 bales in this field. So look at our bale count. Yeah, exactly 100. That's all from this field. We have another like 22 in the small field and another like 21 in the other small field. So all in all, 143 bales or something we got. That is quite a bit, and we have to wrap them all, which is honestly probably going to take like days, which sucks. But you know, at the end of the day, it's not the worst thing. It means that we're going to make like 50 grand from silage bales this year, so I guess I really can't complain after all. Yeah, so speaking of bale wrapping, I'm going to go ahead and drop off this baler and we're going to swap it for we're going to get the front loader back on, we're going to get the bale wrapper attached, and we're just going to do what we can for the next like few hours. And then honestly, what we don't get done today, we'll get done probably in December, which I'm not super worried about. One thing that I do want to check though is we'll loop around here. We'll do this in a second, but I want to go check on those silage bales to see if those are ready to be sold. If that's the case, then maybe we could load them up and sell them. But I did have a thought though. I really want to get the new tractor before we sell some silage bales, because it would just, then we don't have to like disconnect the trailer and try to load it up, you know, without it being connected to a tractor. It could be a little bit sketchy sometimes when you're doing that, because you know, it doesn't have the weight of the tractor to kind of keep it planted. So I much prefer to load up a trailer that's connected to something rather than just loading it up like sitting there by itself. So we'll see. I might wait to sell all the bales until we get the new tractor. But either way, that'll probably be off camera. I'm sure we'll get the new tractor during the winter, and then I'll just kind of show you guys in the spring. But let's go ahead and get this swapped for the front loader. All right, so we got the wrapper loaded up here, hooked up and loaded up with a fresh roll of film or foil. And so yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start getting these bales wrapped. Check progress of these that are already sitting over here. Yep, silage. So these are all ready to go. We can sell these whenever we want, but I might just wait. I might just wait to sell those until the rest of them are fermented. We'll just do it kind of all in one go. Have a big, you know, just it might take us days, honestly, to wrap and sell. Well, it'll definitely take us days to wrap and sell them. But even just to sell them, hopefully we can get it all done in a day. It's going to take us quite a bit to get these all loaded up, you know, by ourselves, since we have hundreds to go. So this is where like any kind of bale collector or something like that really helps. But you know, sometimes you got to work with what you got. And I'm actually going to throw these. I'm gonna throw these in a different spot so they're not so I don't get them mixed up with those. I might throw them like against this wall here for now. But yeah, we've done everything that I've wanted to do today, and somehow my bale just fell off the front there, so that's fun. Oh, I see what I did. All right, anyway. We're gonna go ahead and call it an episode for today, and I think I'm gonna bring you guys back in the springtime. We will have taken into account the votes on our new tractor. We'll go ahead and get that purchased this winter. I'll try to, you know, hunt down some deals and see what I can find. And then I will let you guys know in the springtime when it's time to get back to work. We can see what we've bought and, you know, if it was worth it and everything. And then I'll actually probably just go ahead, like I said, and sell off all of this silage as well during the winter months, so that we don't, you know, you guys, I'm sure, don't want to watch a whole video of me just loading bales onto a trailer and taking them to the sell point, you know, wherever that is, probably the animal dealer or something. The local animal dealer, I think, takes them. But either way, that's going to be a lot of work, and it's just going to be very tedious and monotonous. So I'll just probably do that myself and then bring you guys back in once things get a little bit more exciting. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that you are enjoying the series so far. I am definitely enjoying making it. This is something a little bit different, a lot of fun. Things are well underway. It's looking to be what I hope is going to be a good year for us. A lot of work, but that second tractor is really going to help, and then we could really start, you know, upgrading some equipment and making some real money here, because we're limited. We're limited by the scale of the equipment that we have, so it's kind of hard to do some of these bigger jobs. And if we want to get more fields, got to get some bigger equipment. So a lot to do. A lot to think about in the future, but we are doing the best that we can. So thank you guys again. Hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you in the next episode. See you later.